Catfish Farming Guide. The success of a fish farmer depends on how he cares for his fish. Catfish farming has 6 stages. Knowing the requirements for the cultivation location. Actually, there are no special requirements for catfish farming. However, there are several things that must be considered, such as, first, the location to be used, of course, must be in accordance with the available budget. Second, consider the environmental impact. Make sure to minimize it so as not to disturb the surrounding environment. Third, ensure that human resources are adjusted as well as those who can help manage the cultivation site. Prepare the cultivation pond. The next way to cultivate catfish is to prepare a catfish pond. Reference catfish farming ponds that can be used, such as soil ponds, tarpaulin, cement, cage ponds, or even with floating nets. However, there are several treatments that must be done to make catfish ponds ready for use. For example, if you use a soil pond, there are 3 things that must be prepared, such as drying and processing the soil, liming and fertilizing, and water regulation. Drying and tillage. The process of drying the soil which functions to kill the microorganisms in it. This must be done so that in the future it does not endanger the fish seeds that are spread into the pond. The drying time itself depends on the presence of water content in the soil and also sunlight. If the water content is too much, it will take more than a week to dry the soil, which can be seen from the number of cracks in the soil. If the ground is cracked, the next thing to do is plow the ground. That way the soil will become loose and ready to be used to become a catfish pond again. Don't forget to remove any part of the soil that looks like black mud, so that the pond doesn't smell bad. Liming and fertilizing. The function of liming and fertilizing ponds with soil media is so that the acidity level in the pond can be immediately balanced. Disinfection using chlorine 30 ppm. Then let stand for 3 to 5 days. The effect of chlorine can accelerate the oxidation process with strong aeration and full sun. Water regulation. Before the catfish seeds are spread, try to fill the pond with water that is not too much. The limit is only about 80 to 100 centimeters so that sunlight can still penetrate to the bottom. Then enter 100 gram per cubic meter of salt in the pond. Salt has a function to stabilize the chemical composition and pH of the water, inhibits the growth of fungi and pathogenic bacteria, binds nitrite ions and increases the growth of beneficial bacteria. After giving salt, the next step is to give initial molasses of 100 ml per cubic meter to inhibit the growth of blue-green algae (BGA), increase the C/N ratio so that the growth of heterotrophic bacteria can be more dominant. Then let stand for 5 days until the flock forms naturally. After the pond is overgrown with flocks, the next step is to spread the seeds. The characteristic of the water that is ready to be sown by the seeds is that it will appear brownish-green in color, cloudy, but if a sample is taken from a clear glass, a faint yellow-green sediment will appear and not thick when held. Doing the selection of catfish seeds. The characteristics of superior catfish seeds, namely having movements that tend to be agile, has a length between 5 to 7 centimeters, and no defects in the body. The technique of spreading catfish seeds. The next way to cultivate catfish is to spread the seeds in the pond. Catfish seeds that are still small are certainly very sensitive, so how to sow the seeds into the pond should not be arbitrary. Try to adjust the climate between the previous catfish container with the new pond water. Let the seeds acclimate for 15 minutes until they come out of the container, either a jerry can or a bucket. The stocking density of the seeds is 1,000 heads per cubic meter. 1 day after sowing the seeds, as much as possible use probiotics according to the recommended dosage. The use of catfish probiotics can stimulate the formation of immunity in the catfish body, so that catfish are not susceptible to diseases such as parasitic, fungal and bacterial diseases that come from the accumulation of feces and leftover feed at the bottom of the pond. Catfish feed needs. Try to provide good quality feed. For example, those who have a food conversion ratio whose value is less than 1. Provide a main feed containing animal protein and a balanced supplementary feed. You can also make alternative feed to make it more cost-effective. An alternative feed that can be used for catfish is azolla. Technically caring for catfish. If using an earthen pond, to maintain it, it is necessary to clean the embankments and pond walls and check the water entrance regularly. In addition, it is also necessary to replace pond water, so that catfish are protected from threatening microorganisms. Before changing the pond water, there are several preparations that must be made, such as, fish must fast for AP.